Hi guys, Plexi Cosplay here, and you've asked and asked and asked for probably months now about where's part 2 of my wing construction video. I have to say the reason it took so long is because I lost all of the video footage for how I constructed my feathers. So instead today I tore one of the feathers off of my wings and I'm going to deconstruct it in this video for you to show you how I made it so that you too can make your very own light up wings. Let's get started. Okay, so what I did was I removed one of the feathers from my original costume so I can kind of deconstruct it and show you what went into it. To remove it, I actually had to cut the support that attached it to the framework, as well as the wires that went from the adjacent feathers in and out. So you have the positive and negative in and out. So I'm also going to have to undo this. This is the stringing that went from each feather so that as the wings went up, the feathers also pivoted on their connection point and went up with the wings as well. In the comments, I'm going to put a link to the tutorial that I used on how to string feathers. It's the same with regular feathers. I just did it with the foam, and I had to go through the foam instead of through the hairs on the feathers, but it's the same process that I used as anyone else would. So here we go. I'm gonna just destroy this basically. We'll see how it works. So when you do the stringing for the feathers, each loop has to go through the foam as well as around the core. The plastizote sandwich that I made here is glued with super glue around the edges. You can use contact cement, it'll work a lot better, but I didn't want the yellow color of the contact cement to show through, so I used super glue. There is a clear contact cement that really I should have considered using, but here we are. So I'm just gonna pull it all along the edges, show you my sandwich. So the basic construction for my feathers is there is a wire, a heavy gauge wire as the center support, and it is what loops around at the connection point on the framework. This is the main attachment point for it. So you have this as the core, but it had to be thicker than a wire because I needed to have space for the LEDs. This is going to be a little more difficult. So what I did here, this is a clear kind of a cardboard almost. You can get it at Walmart. It's a transparent because I didn't want to have a really dark core. And I cut about 1 inch thick, which is just slightly wider than the LED strip. And then I used a little bit of hot glue at the top and shoved the wire, the heavy gauge wire, down one of the openings in the cardboard, the transparent cardboard. So cardboard has kind of like tubes that run in one direction, so you want to cut long ways so that those tubes run the whole way down rather than this way. That way you have a little channel to lace your wire through. So that's the core of each of my feathers, is just this cardboard and the wire in the center. Then on top of that, I had the strip LEDs. They start at one side, goes all the way to the end, loops around the end of the cardboard, and all the way back up the other side. So you have the in and then the out. How I kept it in here, in between the sandwich, was I just did a line of hot glue down the middle, and then put the cardboard up and down, let that dry, put the LEDs on, and then did another strip of hot glue to affix the top. That way it's not shifting around in your feather. But we're going to tear this apart even further so I can show you what else I have in here. Okay. So in order to diffuse the light, you don't want the LEDs to be pointing straight up into your plastizote. Rather, I have them pointing outwards so that you don't see each of the diodes. I wanted to further diffuse those LEDs, so I took some of this batting, some cotton, and cut it into strips. And then you want to make sure you leave just a little bit of space here for your glue. So I cut it slightly smaller than the width of each side. And then I put those on each side of the LEDs. So glue your center in here, put the LEDs on, add your batting on each side. I don't even think I glued the batting down. I just kind of shoved it close on each side. And then I did my my second layer of hot glue. So you end up with kind of an open sandwich here. And then I went around and did the glue on the edges and secured the edges down. After you're done with securing everything, then you can start dremeling and doing the wire, the stringing. The wires you will want to do before you really finish your sandwich, because it'll be hard to navigate in that small space. But that's the basic insides. And it looks as though I also, sorry, I'm discovering these things. Before you do your plastizote, before you put your sandwich together, you can also spray paint your plastizote. I did both sides to have more diffusion. The more paint you add, the more diffused the lights are. So I actually spray painted both sides of the plastizote before I even did my... Another thing to note is that before I glued each of the sides down, I did these random cuts to make it look more like, you know, a feather, since it's not a solid edge here. Because you want those to be mirrored on both sides, and then you want to glue all the way to the edges of the cuts so that there's not any LEDs just kind of shining through and opening on the side. You'll be able to see it pretty obviously as soon as you turn your lights on. Okay, so you're going to do this about 40 some times depending on how many feathers you have. Spray paint Dremel to finish them off, and then we like to test one before we go ahead and string them all up. They do turn on and off with a switch that went through my sleeve. Once you have that set up, then lay them all out to make sure you have the positioning right before you string. String them while they're laying on the ground. I'm going to put the link in my comments below so you can see how I did the stringing. And then test them out. It's a matter of putting them on, letting the wings go up. We did end up adding a larger, faster battery in the end because this was quite slow at first. And then we tested it again with the lights to make sure that everything was working before we continued on in the process. Afterwards, you put a sleeve of actual feathers on top to cover up the mechanics, and you're good to go. Enjoy your wings. I hope that helped you in your process. Wait, before you go, don't forget to like and subscribe to this video. And I make $0 on YouTube right now and probably won't make any money for a while doing this. So if you really like what you see, if you've learned anything from the videos I've showed you, please head over to my Ko-fi account, ko-fi. Donate a coffee to help me get to conventions and make more costumes so I can make more videos for you. I also have an Amazon wish list. You can find all of these links in my Instagram bio. They're all there for you. I would love to have any support that you're willing to give. And if it's not financial, liking, subscribing, and sharing my stuff really helps in the long run. Thanks for all your support, and I will see you next video.